A man spends 30 years callousing his palms so his children never have to know what a hard day feels like. And he assumes they understand why his skin looks the way it does. He assumes they see the scars, the dark grease ground permanent into the knuckles, and the split thumb skin every November as proof that he was there, standing between them and the cold. But somewhere along the line, comfort turns into forgetfulness, and forgetfulness turns into shame. That's the thing about giving somebody everything you never had. Sometimes they grow up believing you were meant to have nothing at all. Welcome to Dad's Pure Revenge. I'm glad you're sitting down with me today. Before we get into this one, take a quick second to leave a comment down below and tell me where you're tuning in from, and hit that subscribe button if you believe a father's honest work is something to be proud of, not hidden away in the back row. It really helps us keep bringing these real stories to light. To understand how I ended up sitting on a rusty tailgate outside the Grand Oaks Manor on a 62-degree Saturday while my only daughter got married inside, you have to know about Clinton. Clinton was my wife's second husband. Though he'd been in the picture so long, he treated the house like he'd laid the foundation himself. Clinton worked in corporate risk management out of an office in downtown Richmond, Virginia. He wore shirts that smelled like lavender ironing water, drove a pristine silver Audi that he washed twice a week even when it didn't rain, and had hands so smooth they looked like they'd never lifted anything heavier than a leather-bound day planner. My daughter, Chloe, was 26. Ever since her mother and I split up when she was 9, I did everything by the book. I stayed in the same 3-bedroom split level on Oak Ridge Lane, so she'd always have the same phone number to dial. I paid my child support 3 days early, every single month, for 9 years straight. When she wanted to play travel soccer, I took on extra weekend overhauls at the shop. When she wanted to go to James Madison University, I didn't let her take out loans. I paid the tuition out of my commercial garage, ironclad diesel repair, where I worked 60 hours a week under the undercarriages of dump trucks, garbage haulers, and long-haul rigs. My name is Hank Miller. I'm 54 years old, and if you saw me in the aisle at the grocery store, you'd probably step a little to the side. I've got grease under my fingernails that no scrub brush on earth can move. The diesel oil gets down into the deep lines of your skin after 30 years, and it stays. My right ring finger was crushed in a hydraulic lift leak back in 2011, leaving the middle knuckle thick and slightly crooked. I'm not a handsome man, and I've never pretended to be a refined one. My big mistake, and I admit this plain as day, was believing that hard work carried its own dignity, and that the people you bled for would naturally see it the same way. I never asked Chloe to thank me for the grit under my nails. I just thought she understood where her tuition checks came from. The wedding was planned for October 12th. Chloe was marrying a young man named Garrett, who came from a very old, very polished family over in Charlottesville. For 8 months, all I heard about was the venue, the catering, the color schemes, and the guest list. I didn't mind. I was proud of her. I offered early on to take care of the cost. I didn't have a giant trust fund, but I'd saved steadily for 20 years in a money market account at First National Bank. When the quotes came in, I wrote 3 checks totaling $34,000 to cover the venue, the floral arrangements, and the main dinner. I didn't ask for my name on the invitations. I didn't ask for a speech. I just wanted to walk my girl down the aisle, hand her off to a good man, and dance one dance before I went back home. The crisis hit on a Tuesday afternoon, October 8th, at precisely 3:15 p.m. I was under a Mack truck transmission when my phone vibrated against the concrete bay floor. It was Chloe. I wiped my hands on an old red shop rag, but the oil was already dry and black on my palms. "Hey kiddo," I said, leaning against the workbench. "Everything all right with the florist?" There was a long pause on the line. I could hear the faint hum of an air conditioner in the background, and the light tapping of her nails against a desk. "Dad," she began. Her voice didn't sound angry. It sounded measured, rehearsed, like she was reading from a card she'd practiced in the mirror all morning. "We need to talk about the ceremony walkthrough on Friday." "Sure," I said. "I've got the shop covered. I'll be there at 4 sharp." "Well, That's what I'm calling about, she said. She cleared her throat softly. Garrett's family. They've hired a professional photographer from Washington. He's doing high-detail close-up shots of the handoff at the altar. You know, the moment where the bride's father puts her hand into the groom's. Okay, I said, feeling a slight tightening in my chest, though I didn't know why yet. Sounds fancy. Dad, she said, her voice dropping into that flat, polite tone people use when they're trying to deliver bad news without taking responsibility for it. We've been looking at the logistics. Clinton's going to walk me down the aisle. The shop noise seemed to drop away. Out in the yard, Boyd was running an impact wrench on a tire, but it sounded like it was coming from underwater. Clinton? I asked slowly. Chloe, I paid for the venue. I paid for the caterer. I'm your father. It's not about the money, Dad, she said quickly, and there was a slight edge to her voice now, an impatience that made my throat tight. It's about how it looks. The photos are going to be published in a regional lifestyle magazine. Garrett's mother set it up. Clinton has, well, Clinton looks the part. He wears a tailored tuxedo properly. And your hands, she stopped. I stood there in my steel-toed boots, holding that red shop rag, looking down at my right hand. What about my hands, Chloe? Your hands are too disgusting to walk me down the aisle, she said. The words came out clean, sharp, and without a single tremor. They're permanently stained. Dad, the skin is scarred and thick, and that crooked finger, it's going to ruin the close-up shots. It doesn't match the aesthetic. Clinton's hands are neat. He looks like he belongs there. You can still come, of course. We have a great table saved for you near the back, right by the terrace doors so you can step out if you need to. I didn't yell. I didn't slam my fist down on the workbench. Real pain doesn't make you want to scream. It just makes you feel very cold, very fast. Your hands are too disgusting, I repeated quietly, just so I could hear how the words sounded coming out of my own mouth. Don't be dramatic, Dad, she sighed, sounding tired, like I was a child refusing to eat his vegetables. It's one day. It's my day. You should want me to have the wedding I've always dreamed of. Clinton agreed to do it, so it's all settled. We'll see you Saturday at 5. She hung up. I stood in the shop for 4 full minutes without moving. The clock above the office window clicked every 60 seconds. Tick, tick, tick. My lead mechanic, a 58-year-old man named Boyd who had worked alongside me since 2004, walked over carrying a torque wrench. He didn't say anything at first. He just looked at my face, then down at the phone in my hand. Boyd was a man of few words. He had 3 daughters of his own, and a spine made of iron ore. Everything all right, Hank? Boyd asked softly. Chloe says my hands are too dirty for the wedding pictures, I said. My voice was completely steady, which surprised even me. She's got Clinton walking her down instead. Boyd stopped. He looked down at his own hands, scarred, calloused, stained with 50 years of grease and hard labor, and then he looked up at me. He didn't curse. He didn't blow up. He just set his torque wrench down on the hood of a Ford F-150 with a slow, deliberate metal clang. A man's hands build the house his children sleep in, Boyd said, his voice low and gravelly. If the children don't like the look of the wood, that's on them. But the house is still yours, Hank. He walked over to his cooler, pulled out an unopened bottle of black coffee, set it on my workbench, and walked back to his bay without another word. That was Boyd's way. He didn't offer fake sympathy. He just handed you something solid to keep you grounded. I sat in my office that night until 8 p.m. I didn't cry. I didn't get mad. But something inside me shifted. Not like a glass breaking, but like a heavy vault door, swinging shut on a greased hinge. I pulled up the invoices on my computer screen. When I'd signed the contracts for the Grand Oaks Manor back in February, the event coordinator, a sharp, professional woman named Mrs. Evelyn Whitmore, had insisted that because I was paying the full balance up front, all contracts, vendor approvals, and facility permissions were tied exclusively to my personal account and signature. The contract clearly stated that any changes to the itinerary, vendor access, or main hall usage required the explicit written consent of the primary guarantor, Hank Miller. I called Mrs. Whitmore at her office early Wednesday morning, October 9th, 7:15 a.m. "Good morning, Mr. Miller," she said, her voice crisp and efficient. "We're all set for Saturday. The floral deliveries are scheduled for 2 o'clock. Mrs. Whitmore," I said quietly, "I need to review the contract terms regarding the guarantor's authority." "Of course," she said, sounding slightly puzzled. "As the sole guarantor who settled the total balance of $34,000, you hold full administrative authority over the facility agreement until 5 hours prior to the event start time. Is there a problem?" "Not a problem," I said. "Just a modification." Now, if you're enjoying this story so far, please take a second to hit that like button. It lets the algorithm know that honest stories about real life deserve to be heard. I didn't cancel the wedding. I didn't call Clinton to fight him. I didn't ruin Chloe's day with a scene at the altar. I didn't stoop to cheap tricks or shouting matches. That's not how a man who built his own business handles things. I simply made sure that everyone got exactly what they bargained for. On Friday afternoon, the day before the wedding, I drove my 2019 Chevy Silverado down to the Grand Oaks Manor. It was a sprawling estate with limestone pillars, rolling green lawns, and massive oak trees lined with iron lanterns. I parked near the main office, walked in, and met with Mrs. Whitmore. I carried a blue folder under my arm. "Mr. Miller," she said, offering her hand. I shook it, black knuckles and all. She didn't flinch. She was a professional. "What can I do for you?" "I'm transferring the primary hosting role for tomorrow's event," I said plainly. "My daughter has informed me that her stepfather, Mr. Clinton Webb, will be acting as the primary father figure and master of ceremonies for the evening. Since he is taking on the public role of the father of the bride, I am reassigning the financial and administrative responsibility of the contract into his name, as permitted under Section 12, Clause B of our signed agreement." Mrs. Whitmore blinked. She looked down at the contract on her desk, then looked back up at me. She was sharp. It took her about 3 seconds to understand exactly what was happening. "Mr. Miller," she said slowly, "if you withdraw as the primary guarantor, the pending security deposit, the open bar liability waiver, and the final facility usage fees, which total roughly $11,800, including the late vendor modification surcharges, will fall directly upon the individual listed as the lead host on the revised program." "That would be Clinton Webb," I said handily. I pulled a cashier's check out of my envelope, the exact amount of my original deposit, and handed her the signed amendment form I'd had notarized that morning. "My original payment for the base facility hire remains credited, as promised. But all additional fees, the premier suite rentals, the top-shelf bar package, and the photographer's commercial staging fees are now billed directly to the acting host upon arrival tomorrow. If those fees are not cleared by 3 p.m. tomorrow, the facility contract defaults to the base package, standard lighting, no open bar, and usage restricted to the outdoor pavilion." Mrs. Whitmore looked at the paper, then at me. Her expression was neutral, but there was a flicker of something very cold and clear in her eyes. "I understand, Mr. Miller," she said softly. "The paperwork is in order. Will you be needing a seat reserved at the head table?" "No," I said. "Table 14 in the back row, by the terrace doors." Saturday, October 12th, came in crisp and sunny. The sky was that bright, hard blue you only get in the middle of autumn. I got